Welcome back to a short week with Thanksgiving this week. Greg Diamond here at our 10 stock trader, Stansberry Research. And the big news over the weekend was the US dollar. Secretary Treasury was picked by Trump, and the dollar has fallen down. Now, what I outlined to subscribers this morning is interesting from a correlation perspective. So US dollar here in blue, the S&P here in black, and you can see back in late 2021, early 2022, we had this huge move down in stocks as dollar and the Federal Reserve went on a hiking spree for higher interest rates. Okay, and you can see how I have this correlation, since then, and then of late we've had dollar and stocks rallying together. Now, what's interesting about this was clearly the Trump trade. Okay, higher dollar, higher growth in inflation, which is what the pitch was. But now we're seeing a reverse of that this week, which is interesting. So something's not adding up. Okay. So if the Trump trade is higher interest rates, lower dollar, higher stocks, or if it was right after the election, it was higher dollar, higher stocks, higher rates. Well, which one is it? I think that's going to be interesting on how things play out into this week. Now you can see here, we made this high on Friday and we had this reverse lower. The RSI was overbought. The composite index was diverging. So I think we're going to find out real quick whether or not this is actually a good thing for stocks or a bad thing. Something isn't adding up to me, and that might get proven with what happens this week. So you can see here that we have the Federal Reserve meeting minutes. Maybe that gives us some insight into what happens. But on Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving, is really going to be interesting because we have GDP and then this PCE, price consumer index, which is one of the most important things that the Federal Reserve looks at in terms of its future monetary policy. So is inflation going to keep rising? If it keeps rising, how does that react with stocks? What happens with the dollar? What happens with interest rates? So we've seen this initial jump after the election with Trump, but now it's reversing, at least in terms of the dollar and interest rates, and then stocks are reacting to it as if that the dollar and interest rates don't matter. Clearly it does. So which one's behind the curve? I think we'll get that answer this week. The other thing that is interesting this week is, as we've seen the dollar crumble, gold and precious metals, gold and silver, have fallen as well. So whether this is more reactionary towards a cooling off of Russia and Ukraine, because obviously gold and silver will rally in the face of geopolitical tensions. But it's very odd to see when you have this dollar coming down and gold and silver coming down with it, at least to this magnitude. They can rise together, they can drop together, obviously. But again, after Trump was elected, we had gold fall, okay, and dollar rally. And now with this new Secretary Treasury pick, the dollar and gold and silver are falling. So again, something is telling me that this is not completely adding up, and I think we might get an answer this week in terms of what matters, I think, most, which is the inflation picture. So that's what I'm going to be looking forward to this week. Again, a short week, and I'm still looking at volatility. We've also seen, Bitcoin top out over the weekend. So that's something to watch as well. If there's a correlation between what happens with Bitcoin and stocks, that could tell us that, we're looking at volatility into the end of the year rather than this gradual move up like many are anticipating. Oftentimes what most people think is the opposite of what actually happens. So something to keep in mind this week, PCE, and how this new dollar and interest rate inflection point affects stocks. All right. Thank you. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, December 9th. Thanks.